Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari His Divine Grace, Bhakti Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtotara Shatashishi His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Ranga. Okay. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is Canto, 8th Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 19, The Lord Begs Charity from Bali Maharaj, Text 13. Please repeat after me. Vairanubandha Etavan Amrityor Iha Dehinam Ajnana Prabhavo Manyor Aham Manopabrimhitaha Vairanubandha etavan Amrityor iha dehinam Ajnana prabhavo manyor Aham manopabrimhitaha Vairanubandha etavan Amrityor ihadehinam Jnana Prabhavo Manyor Aham Manopabrimhitaha Vairanubandha etavan Amrityor ihadehinam Jnana Prabhavo Manyor Aham Manopabrimhitaha Like to chat? Any online chanters?
Vairanubandha etavan Amrityoriha dehinam Ajnana Prabhavo Manyur Aham Manopabrim Pitaha.
No tapas?
Vairanubandha etavan Amrityoriha dehinam Ajnana Prabhavo Manyur Aham Manopabrimhita.
Okay. Vaira anubandha, enmity. Etavan, so great. Amrityoho, up to the point of death. Iha, in this. Dehinam, of persons too involved in the bodily concept of life. Jnana Prabhavaha, because of the great influence of ignorance. Manu, anger. Ahamana, by egotism. Upabrimhitaha, expanded. Translation, purport. Divine grace, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hiraṇyakashipu's anger against Lord Viṣṇu persisted until his death. Other people in the bodily concept of life maintain anger only because of false ego and the great influence of ignorance. Purport. Generally speaking, even though the conditioned soul is angry, his anger is not perpetual but temporary. It is due to the influence of ignorance. Hiraṇyakaśipu, however, maintained his enmity and his anger against Lord Viṣṇu until the point of death. He never forgot his vengeful attitude toward Viṣṇu for having killed his brother Hiraṇyaksha. Others in the bodily concept of life are angry at their enemies, but not at Lord Viṣṇu. Hiraṇyakaśipu, however, was everlastingly angry. He was angry not only because of false prestige, but also because of continuous enmity toward Viṣṇu. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, translation once again. Hiraṇyakashipu's anger against Lord Viṣṇu persisted until his death. Other people in the bodily concept of life maintain anger only because of false ego and the great influence of ignorance. So Hiraṇyakashipu was extremely angry, to say the least, with Lord Viṣṇu because he killed his brother, Hiraṇyaksha. And as being stated in this verse today, that persisted until his death. Say the appearance day of Hiraṇyakashipu is the disappearance day of Hiraṇyakashipu. And that is the nature of anarthas that aren't dealt with properly, that they continue until death. And as we've heard many times, that it continues after that. we bring the baggage with us. It's not that, okay, great, now my material body has ceased to exist and the soul's moving on, now I get a clean slate. It doesn't work like that. How it works is that we carry everything from our last life into the next life. So all those cute babies you see, unless you're, anyways, but all those cute babies you see, those cute small children you see running around, they all have a lot of baggage they're carrying from their last life, or so many lives. And that will gradually manifest in their childhood, but also manifest more once they grow up, become adults. It kind of fully, their inclinations manifest. So we have to deal with them. That's the whole nature of Krishna consciousness. We have to try to deal with them, detect them and deal with them. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur would tell his disciples they have to be introspective. What's the opposite of introspective? Extrospective? I don't know if that's a word. The opposite of introspective means introspectively looking at one's own shortcomings and where they can improve, versus looking externally in the external world and trying to detect where other people could improve. So that's the opposite. I'm not sure what the word would be, but let's say what is it? Introspective, extrospective. I'm not sure. So a person has to examine their own heart all the time to see what's going on there. And generally, what does it mean to be a materialist? A materialist means they're always looking outside. They're always trying to, practically they're speaking, they're just glued to other people's faults. They take great pleasure in criticizing them. They're expert at it. That's the whole nature of politics, right? And it's become really ugly stuff, actually. Like ruthlessly uncultured, just real, low stuff. Anyway, sorry, Krishna. But well, that's a materialist. They're always looking externally, and they're always looking for external achievements, right? They do not understand, as Prahlad Maharaj mentions in the 7th canto, that the real goal is Viṣṇu. But they think there's external goals. So everything's external. But practically speaking, okay, one comes to Krishna consciousness, one comes to the Hare Krishna movement, they become devotees or practicing Krishna consciousness. Things could also very much be an external affair. Not an internal affair, but an external affair. Okay, how many books have we distributed? Okay, that's important, but how much Lakshmi was collected? How many temples were built? Even if you want to say how many people were initiated, how many people joined the temple. But the real thing is how many people are striving to become pure devotees, or how many people will become pure devotees. That's the real criteria of success, actually. Like Srila Prabhupada says in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, I think it's introduction, he says, we have translated Bhagavad Gita as it is and so on, and the success of our mission is if even one person becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, we can consider our mission successful. So it's not okay, there are external things in Krishna consciousness, achievements and so on, but the real thing is, ultimately, it's an internal affair that we have to always be examining in our heart. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would therefore tell his disciples this: examine, examine, examine. Do not fail to examine your heart. No one else is going to do it for you, practically speaking. To some degree, but. And he would say, therefore you have to beat your mind, we have to beat our minds in the morning with a broomstick. Keep it in check. With such reminders as do not be eager to find faults in others, and declare thyself a true bona fide bhakta, which surely thou art not. That's some old English he was using. Surely thou art not. There is a song that Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings that he quotes that a liar, I am a liar, I take pleasure in the pain of others and their losses and their sorrows. I take great great pleasure in others' suffering. Liar, cheater, taking great pleasure in other people's suffering. Duplicitous, so on. Lacking virtue. So he's describing some of his faults. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, or his taking the role of a conditioned soul. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that we should always remember this song. We should always remember this. In other words, feel ourselves. I'm the rascal here. I have many faults. So we should always feel ourselves like this, and to be like this, and simultaneously we should ceaselessly engaged in Krishna consciousness. He says Hari Bhajan, worshiping Krishna. And then he goes on further to say, such a policy of finding fault with others, external things, is not the policy of preachers, but only policy of deceitful persons. So he's telling his disciples like this: just beat your mind in the morning and in the evening. Remind ourselves. We have to remind ourselves to not have an inflated conception of ourselves. remind our mind. Or else, says also in the, I think it's the 5th canto, it says that a yogi who captures their mind, which is considered to be like compared to a wild animal, and this verses of the 5th canto, they capture their mind, but they have to be very vigilant not to let it go, not to let it not to open the cage and let it go, because by doing that, the yogi will be killed by the mind. Of course, by what? The nartas, lust or selfishness, anger, greed, all of these things will kill the yogi. Just like Nelson was telling us yesterday that there was one fellow, apparently he became, somehow or other, he learned how to tame a bear, and it was all on video. He was hanging out with the bear, and with the video and everything. Of course, it's no fun unless you post it, right? Unless you show the world what you're doing, get all the followers, right? Do anything for get some followers. So, any foolish thing so he was. But it's stupid. Obviously, it's a wild bear. I mean, it's stupid. You shouldn't get close to them. They'll kill you in like less than a minute. So he's like this, and the bear somehow or other was tolerating the guy, but then the bear at one particular point didn't tolerate the guy. Mauled him. He mauled him and just killed him. And this was all found later because it was like a little bit of a documentary the guy was doing. And then, then the guy, they found it later, the video of it, because it was all being broadcasted. The guy was broadcasting the whole thing, I guess from a tripod or something like that. And then later the people found the video of the guy being mauled by the bear. Apparently they didn't show it because it was too graphic, but which reminded me of this verse in the 5th canto about the mind. So yeah, we have to be very careful to keep it controlled. And to always try to examine our heart and see what's there and try to remove those things. Try to remove those things from our heart by serious chanting and hearing about Krishna. So yes, the anger persisted until death. So sometimes these things do persist. Srila Prabhupada gives the story, which we've all heard many times, but the story of Akbar and his trusted assistant Birbal, right? And Akbar was wondering how long does lust go on for? And Birbal said, until the time of death. And Akbar said, I mean, how is that? You become an old man, and surely the lust might die, right? Surely. But no, Birbal said, until death. And Akbar was, okay, well, he was having a hard time understanding it. And then Birbal said, okay, you come with me. I'll demonstrate this. So Akbar and Birbal, they went to see a dying man there on his deathbed, ready to leave his body. So the dying man's laying there, and Akbar comes up, and Birbal comes up, and they also bring the young princess, daughter. What is it? Yeah, Akbar's daughter comes with Birbal. So the young princess is there, and so then the dying man, he's there, and laying on the bed, and he looks up, and he just he sees Akbar, he sees Birbal, but his attention clearly goes to the princess. Just focuses on her. And And then Akbar can understand until death, until the last moment practically. The guy's dying, So, of course, people could hear that and it could be, God, that's so discouraging, right? But Krishna consciousness is so powerful that one can become a Goswami, one can control their senses, and one can ultimately be so much attached to Krishna, to worshiping Krishna, to worshiping Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and so on, that one is not bothered by these things, and even one could transcend these things altogether, not be like in this person's, this dying man's shoes. It is possible. It's the power of Krishna consciousness. But still, as we're seeing in this verse, there is a chance of things persisting until death. And generally, as Srila Prabhupada points in the purport, that the conditioned soul is angry, but his anger is not perpetual but temporary. We have that experience, right? It's like a wave of anger. We're just angry about something or someone. Become angry. And it's like it might persist for some time, but then it goes away. And he goes on to say this is the influence of ignorance. So you have like lust, which doesn't just mean sexual lust, but just desire in general. And then when that's frustrated, it becomes anger. It comes out as anger. That is, so I think the lust, it's like, what do you say, Kamanuja? The younger brother of Ramanujacharya, or excuse me, not Ramanuja. Ramanuja, which means the younger brother of Lord Ram. So you have Kamanuja, the younger brother of lust. They go together. So when our desires become frustrated, we become angry. So what to do about that? What do people become angry about? What do you think? Or let's just say this, what do devotees become angry about? And when we say angry, we're not talking about, because there is transcendental anger in Krishna consciousness. We accept that. Srila Prabhupada demonstrated that, and devotees demonstrate that. We accept that. But it's not that all anger that devotees demonstrate in Krishna consciousness is transcendental. They might say, oh, I am angry in Krishna consciousness. But it's not actually Krishna consciousness. It's just anger. But they're masking it as Krishna consciousness. So, okay, not so much transcendentally speaking about anger in Krishna consciousness, but what do devotees get angry about in Krishna consciousness? And you could say an untranscendental, is that the word? Untranscendental way. Being inconvenienced, yes. Okay. Like what type of inconvenience? That's true. Your maha was stolen. One devotee tells a story when he was a young brahmachari. They used to make a really good pizza feast. Of course, some people, they're not into pizza. Apparently in India, a lot of the swamis they quote pizza, pasta, naraki, asta, something like that, which means pizza, pasta, hellish consciousness. They're not into, because it's untraditional and this and that. Anyways, so it was in Europe, and they did a nice big pizza feast. Then there was an expert cook, devotional, everything like that. But this devotee, he was out of station, out on book distribution or whatever, and the whole party kind of came and went, and he came back to collect his pizza, but he couldn't find it anywhere. He was like looking. And then he was just like really angry. He just like really lost his temper, and he like kicked something, and then it hit the picture of, I think it was Prabhupada, and like fell on the ground and broke the frame and everything. And then he came to his senses, like, what am I doing? I'm so angry about this. And later he realized the pizza was, in the oven or wherever it was, But it's like frustrated desire. So yeah, it happens, right? Somebody stills the maha or something. You save something and somebody stills it, and you really wanted it. I have a strange experience that goes on within myself sometimes that, not all the time, but here and there sometimes. Sometimes I want a particular prasadam, and I think, oh yeah, I'll get it later or something. Surely it will be there, this and that. And many of the times I come back and that's what's gone, And it's not necessarily something that's desirable amongst a lot of people, It just happens to be gone. So maybe if I don't desire it will be there. But also we had one brahmachari here years ago, Kanai, maybe he's listening in the kitchen, but he was serving burritos, and this devotee really liked the burritos, and he was a really big fan of them. I was I think he would just take that breakfast and that was it. He wouldn't take anything the rest of the day. He'd take quite a lot of burritos and then nothing else for the rest of the day. So I think Kanai was kind of making him wait, just hey, wait in line or just whatever. And then the devotee got really mad, and he walked out. He got the plate and he threw it at the wall in the Krishna lounge. He said, "You always do this to me." He took off. And nice devotees, just whatever. Hungry, I guess. They call hangry, right? Some people that get really. So yeah, somebody stole the prasadam, or you're inconvenienced, as Mukunda Charan Prabhu said, you're inconvenienced, or you're what is it? What do you say? Not respected, or insulted. Yeah, that's a better term, instead of being not respected or not appreciated, but you're insulted. Somebody insults your intelligence, especially if you feel that you have some intelligence, which, it's okay to feel that in a sense. You have intelligence, but if somebody insults your intelligence, but you feel like you're intelligent, it's God, this person's insulting my intelligence. This is, you think I'm stupid or what? What's wrong with you? So somebody insults us. There's so many ways people could insult us. They don't. Anyways, so many ways people can insult us, or we're inconvenienced. Very often when you're traveling, traveling means inconvenience. Actually, I was coming from East Coast to San Diego, and I apologize for not being in the morning program Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm having these Zoom calls, which are very inconvenient times, and simultaneously trying to address the deities, and so. But yeah, it means inconvenience. You're in these airplanes. It's hard not to be angry while you're on an airplane. To really practice controlling your anger, because there's no airflow properly. You have to sit in the same little position the whole time practically, and all these kind of materialistic people around you just doing whatever they're doing, and it's just really inconvenient. It's suffering. You have to. And I was thinking to myself, I was I'm losing my patience here. I want to get out of here. And what to speak of, I was supposed to get here at noon, on Monday, but I got here at 9 p.m. That's it's not such a huge thing, but it's this delayed flight, canceled flight, this, that, It's not fun. So you have to practice your patience, not get angry. So yeah, being inconvenienced, being insulted, somebody stealing your Mahaprasadam. Any other reasons think of? Yeah, insulted, but in such a way as you're falsely accused of something. Yeah. We have Srivas Pandit's example in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They tried to frame him. They put a bunch of, because he was a great devotee, a great Vaishnava. He wasn't a worshiper of Durga. He's a great Vaishnava. So somebody, the envious, smarta Brahmins around, which by definition, practically speaking, historically they're envious of Vaishnavas from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time, Prabhupada's time. Very envious. So they set up a bunch of Durga paraphernalia outside of his house, wine and all types of weird sort of tamasic stuff. And then people walking by and they're like, "Oh, Srivas's house." It's like right outside his house. And then Srivas Pandit just said, "Oh, well, yeah, that's true. They've caught me. I'm a worshiper of Durga." He didn't take it seriously because it's not true. So he wasn't bothered by it. So if something's not true, it's not true. Generally, people will get upset at something because it's true. That's indication that yeah. Of course, it is annoying being falsely accused, sure, but it is a reason people become angry. I think Dravidapu, you have some other.
Well, you're talking about people getting angry, or devotees getting angry when they shouldn't get angry. But there's if another devotee is attacked, or if blasphemed, or
yes.
Bhajan Swami has more than one story about how the deities were almost injured in Detroit when the guy ran up the stairs and someone else tackled him just before he.
Yeah.
So that's the legitimate anger.
Yes. Yeah. So there's so many reasons we could become angry, and they're losing our Krishna consciousness, and then there's ways we could become angry in Krishna consciousness. But we should be honest. And therefore self-reflection comes in the picture. We should be honest and saying, this is not transcendental. How I lost my temper is not transcendental. If it wasn't. If it was, then we could say it was in Krishna consciousness. I was doing it for the pleasure of Krishna. I was doing it to try to help somebody, so on. So there is justification for using it, but we have to be very careful. It's like a tool. I remember I was with one devotee who displayed some anger, but I could see that it was just completely used as a tool to help this person. It was clearly used as a tool because I could see that person's mood change immediately right after. It was just completely used as a tool. So yes, Chad, you wanted to say something?
Hare Krishna. Well, I was just going to say, it seems like the non-transcendental examples kind of fall into two categories. One being frustrated desires, and the other one being basically false ego deflation, or false ego related.
Yes. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada and our acharyas and so on, they encourage us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he says, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says we should wear that around our neck, that verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, one should be as humble as a blade of grass and more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in return. Such a state one could chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So we could try to train ourselves like that. Try to be humble. Try to, by our behavior, by our activities, like our Indra Prabhu, he would say, my name is Andra Das and this and that, and I clean the toilets. That's one god brother of mine. He went to Vrindavan, and then Indra Prabhu introduced himself like that. And he wasn't joking. He did, do humble things like that. And that's the whole principle of the guru-disciple relationship, that one is training to be humble. One's trained to be humble. So it's very important. Because especially people who are future leaders in the Krishna consciousness movement, which means, younger devotees, by nature they become leaders in different ways and different services, and just senior devotees in general. It's so important that they, have that training of humility and to really try to get control of all these things. So when they become leaders, they could properly train others and so on. So, so yeah, we shouldn't be like Hiraṇyakaśipu, just holding anger towards the very end, We should be everlastingly angry, or whatever it may be. But we should try to be, try to surrender more and more and more, and just be joyful and non-frustrated. So, all right. Are there any questions or comments? Atishta Giridhar, you want to say something? Okay. Anyone? Any online?
Hare Krishna. So did you have anything interesting happen on your trip to Florida?
I was giving Bhagavad Gita class in the evening, and I was training for like tolerance, actually, because it was so hot. It was like humid, like really humid. I mean, Dravida Prabhu lived there in Miami for many years. All the devotees were saying how they miss Dravida Prabhu and how you all think he belongs to you, but actually belongs to us. Yeah. The couple, what's it? The African American couple. Yeah, Harish Chandra and his wife. They're saying, yeah, they think, yeah. So, and then one devotee, I think his name starts with an E. I'm forgetting Eka, but he said he helped you move from Miami, I think, to here. Oh, okay. Okay, yes.
Every month or so, maybe after 2 months, he writes to me.
Oh, okay.
And he says, "Please forgive me for all my offenses." That's basically he can write the whole
Okay.
letter. And I wrote him, "No offenses, it's fine." Then next time he writes, he says,
Yeah. So, anyways, I was there, and it's humid, and it's a lot of mosquitoes. So I felt, I'm giving the class, and it's like you can't be like, during class or, doing all this stuff. You can't. So I'm just like sitting there, like, just really suffering, trying to get the Bhagavad Gita class. But then the next day, I felt I was a little more enthusiastic. I don't know, maybe it's just some weird speculative, strange thing, but somehow they weren't bothering me as much, So I was kind of like more absorbed and kind of more, so I don't know. But yeah, Miami, it's a good field. I mean, it's a big city and a lot of people, and nice temple, and there's a new temple president there, so they're trying to, change things up and so on. So it's a good facility. Yeah. Any online questions or? Also, I saw Dharma Prabhu, the devoted pujari that Dravida Prabhu's mentioned over the years many times, with his wife. They've been serving the deities for like 40 years. They're very devoted. Yeah, very impressive, actually. So it was nice to get his association.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So I know devotees were not supposed to desire respect or expect to be respected, but we also see sometimes that demonic personalities, they kind of, they're envious of devotees, so they they become angry, and sometimes they can be almost like a bully.
Yes.
So, but sometimes, like for me, like how do you know when it's, like if it's just your ego thinking, oh, this person's, got it out for me or whatever.
You're talking about like non-devotee?
Yeah, non-devotees. Or in general,
Yeah.
and you just say like, oh, they're a demon, they must be. But it could just be your ego,
Yeah.
Like how do you know? How do you make that?
I mean, like devotees, they may use like tools because ultimately like Sridhar Swami, for example, Srila Prabhupada's disciple. When he was a young man, he was there in San Francisco. He came up to the book table, and he actually was coming to harass the devotees. And then he asked a question to the devotee because he saw this painting of Viṣṇu, and then he said, "Who is this?" And then the devotee says, "It's God." And then he said, "So what would you do if I took that painting and or that picture and I just ripped it?" And then the devotee, he looked at him and he kind of like stood up, a little bit, and he said, "Well, I'd have to kill you." And then Sridhar Maharaj, before it became, he was he's a bit of a rough, person. So he was impressed. Oh, these are my type of people. I could. Of course, this this falls under somebody attacking Krishna or the devotees, so it's a different category rather than attacking oneself. But we kind of have to relate to people on their level, in a sense, when we're dealing in the world. Like I was on the way here to San Diego, on that last flight, there's this guy next to me. And he seemed like a pretty rough guy to me, and I was thinking, I don't know if this person's angry or this, I don't know, it's like, and I didn't want to kind of like, look at him wrong or, it's kind of like and then the people, they come by with the drinks, and they announced before, we're not giving out any alcohol, somehow or other I don't know, he didn't hear it or whatever, but he said, like a really rough, "Give me a Jack Daniels and some Coke," So it's like, okay. So then the lady gives him the little bottle and the Coke, and the guy just drinks it, and then he goes like this to me, and he not that hard, but little, and then he gives me his bag of pretzels. It's like, okay, interesting. This guy. I take off my headphones, and he's like, I have just a question. Are you Hare Krishna? And then I go, yeah. He's like, yeah, I wasn't sure. I thought so, but he says, I don't know if you guys, I wasn't sure if you guys existed, anymore. I haven't seen you guys for a long time. So anyways, we get into this long conversation, and we talk pretty much the rest of the flight. But, I was trying to relate to the guy, and he tells me how he had his girlfriend for 5 years, and then he said one time he woke up in the morning and then she had her bags packed and she's like, "The elders have forgave me. I'm moving to Tennessee." and then the guy's like, "Elders?" And he starts using some cuss language. I'm not gonna, who are the elders and all this stuff. Because she comes from a Jehovah's Witness background. Apparently they're named elders as well. And he starts going off into this whole thing, how he's anti and this and that and so many things. But he's like really into the heart. He's like, "You guys are cool, I really appreciate you guys. The Hare Krishnas, you guys, don't bother anybody." And, he's like, "Yeah, they're knocking on my door in New York sometimes at 6 a.m. in the morning." I'm like, 6 a.m., that's too early. And he's got a New York accent. He's from New York, actually. Anyways, at the end, I give him a on-chanting Hare Krishna with Viṣṇu John Maharaj in the black and white. I said, this is the old school one. And anyways, he's a nice guy. He said he would read it. So kind of have to try to relate to people. If I'm just all kind of, I'm not talking to this guy, you kind of relate to people. So if somebody's approaching you like that, it may be helpful for them, for you to kind of reciprocate in a certain way. Yeah. Which means you may retaliate a bit, give them a little, you don't want, sounds okay, we're supposed to be humble, but as a tool, we can retaliate in a certain way so people don't think Hare Krishnas are just, like pushovers or something.
One more. There's a devotee here known as Prabhu Dasa. He got initiated after I'd been here for quite a few years, Bhakti Nick. And you see those beautiful feet there, Prabhupada? He made that. And when he came here, he stayed to get his visa back, and he renewed it and everything. So very, very wonderful devotee. And the story of how he became a devotee, you know this, Balaram, in Philadelphia. He was a tough guy in Philadelphia.
Italian.
And devotees got their new place. I think it's the one that I was not living at, but I was part of in the early 80s. And he would come during the class or something and throw rocks, things, and harass like that, And so after it happened a couple of times, one of the heftier devotees, ran out and caught him and said, "You're nothing but a punk," And I don't think there was a fist fight at that time, if I recall. But he was suddenly taken aback, and he realized, oh, these devotees are not so pushovers so much, Anyway, the result was that he became interested, got books, and became a devotee, a first-class devotee. And when he was here for months, waiting to get his visa back, because it used to be easy from India, you just go up to Nepal, get your visa, and come back. But now you have to wait some months. So he spent months here, and he did all kinds of stuff. I don't know, did he paint the temple at that time?
He painted a lot of the interior of the temple, which would cost if we would pay someone that, it would cost literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars.
He was a professional painter, actually, and so he was very expert. But every day he found something to do. He would do this. He was working on this. Very, very wonderful devotee, and he was initiated by Gunagari Swami after years and years. And he got the name Prabhu Dasa. He was so ecstatic to get that name. Now he's back in Mayapur, doing so nicely.
Yeah, this guy I met on the plane was also Italian, and his name was Tommy Mozella or something like that. I saw his last name. So, yes, Vanessa, I heard you chanting earlier, so I know you're there in Tucson. Myself and Bhakti Chad, we plan to, by Krishna's mercy, be there tomorrow evening for the lounge, or for their evening gathering. And we also plan to be there for the Bhagavatam class on Friday. So if you're, free.
Hare Krishna, absolutely. I will be there tomorrow, and I normally attend Bhagavatam in person Fridays as well. So look forward to seeing you.
Okay. Jai Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.